What is going on? Quancredible here. Before I even start this video, I'm just gonna apologize immediately for the bit later review, and if I seem a little tired. I was out really late last night partying, so I'm just really tired. So if I sound a little more drained than usual, that is probably why. But aside from that, this chapter is actually pretty dope. We got the results of the popularity poll as well. Noel number one, Asta number two, Knock number three. I'm not gonna really talk a lot about that in this video. If you do really want to see me talk about the results of the popularity poll, maybe like 35 likes in 24 hours. No, like 40 likes in 24 hours, and I'll do that tomorrow. I have a different video planned for tomorrow, but if you really want to hear me talk about that, 40 likes, 24 hours, and I'll do it. But yeah, Black Clover chapter 305, the vice captain of the Golden Dawn. Honestly, when we went back to Xenon, I expected more of like a thing, but this was actually a Langris chapter, which I'm not mad at. Of course, I enjoy Langris as a character and his place in the story. I just wasn't really expecting it to get a Langris chapter. It just seemed, I don't know, it was just different. Basically, it's right where we left off last chapter, where Yuno told Langris to buy him 3 minutes, and then he will have an attack that is able to defeat Xenon. And Langris, of course, knows that he can't do anything to Xenon. Like, he is very aware of how, like, of the actual gap in between those two, which Yuno does offer the encouragement, saying that, like, he is aware that Langris is the strongest spatial mage in the Clover Kingdom, which isn't anything new. We all knew this. I mean, his only likes of competition that we even know about would be like Cobb, who's the door guy, and Finral. And as much as I love Finral as a character, in terms of strength, like actually just being strong, Langris, has him beat like 8 ways to Sunday. So it's not like Langris is the only true strongest spatial mage. And with this, I really do love this moment, because we had one of like Black Clover's classic like surpass your limits moments. But they didn't have to say, I'm going to surpass your limits, like with Noel or Asta or Noct or Yami. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to surpass. It was just like a night. It was very clean in how it was handled. It was very Golden Dawn-esque in terms of how Langris just surpassed his limits and acquiring his new ability. I wish we would have got a spell name for this, but we actually just didn't. I kind of wish we would have got to see what this was called, but we did get the information that while Xenon's spatial domination is active, people normally will not be able to use spells unless they have the same amount of mana as Xenon, which is really dope in a sense if you're fighting a bunch of really weak people, because you can just neg them all immediately. It's kind of like you don't really have to waste your time. But against like a really strong opponent, like a truly strong opponent, then this spell kind of doesn't do anything for you. If you're beloved by mana, so I guess if you just have super hacks like or Langris with this new spell that we got to see have mastered Mana Zone. Now, Langris with Mana Zone is a really scary thing to think about, because in this moment we don't know if Langris can really use like the full scope of Mana Zone that like that like we know is available. Like, we don't know if he can launch attacks from other directions or inside other people's spells, or if he has the whole thing where he can kick off of air and all of that. Like, I'm not for sure exactly what the extent of his Mana Zone is able to be. I'm assuming this is something that he probably that him and probably worked on when they trained together, and that maybe he didn't finish it, but now this is the finished result of it. This is one of those things where, like, back when and Langris did do some training, I wish we would have gotten to see some of it, or I wish this chapter kind of had more of potentially a flashback of them maybe having a conversation about this. It kind of would have tied everything together really nicely. But the fact that he's doing this right now doesn't make me too upset, to be honest with you, because it is just dope in general. So another thing I noticed about Langris' new spell that I brought up during the Black Clover versus Everybody podcast is that this spell looks very similar to something that Langris' dad did when Langris was possessed by an elf and he went to attack his own father. His dad did a spell that was basically very like bubble like and blocked the spatial magic attack. So I wonder, is this like I wonder, was Tabata have it, like, did he have that in mind when he did this, or is this like a thing that like their family can do with their spatial magic? I just thought it was like a very interesting callback if it was intentional. With this spatial magic bubble, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, Xenon's attacks are unable to get through. And it's funny because even Xenon, he's like this spell is kind of dope. But even Xenon was just like, oh, so you just created like a smaller space within my space. And it's like, oh, okay. Like Xenon's not super scared of it. It kind of reminded me of how Vonica was towards Rill. Like, Oh, so all you do is paint pictures. Like, all right, cool. And right here we get a lot of the character moment, or I guess as a lot of people I've seen talking about it, kind of like character development for Langris. Talking about how Langris feels about Yuno, and Langris talking about how Yuno's always been like presumptuous and like insolent, and how he always kind of hated those things about him, but he really probably hated them because they were so similar. And this kind of goes really back to a lot of the people that say Yuno is boring or Yuno doesn't have a personality, when honestly, Langris just now is saying that him and Yuno have very similar personalities, so that's why they didn't really get along at first. So is saying Yuno doesn't have a personality could clearly just look right here into like Langris is saying that they're similar, like they have similar personality, and this shows in the story that they both are very proud. They both are insolent. They both, are very cocky. These are personality traits, whether people choose to acknowledge them or not. Just because, isn't cracking jokes or being goofy all of the time doesn't really mean he doesn't have a personality. There's different kind of personality types out there. But even more so during all this, Langris is talking about how like he thought his own strength would be enough to carry the Golden Dawn to greater heights. But strength was different, because not only was he strong like Langris, Yuno's strength also was more inspiring to other people, and Langris does talk about how the fact that Yuno's strength inspired and lifted them to greater heights, which is a big important job for a leader. Like obviously when you look at captains or vice captains, they should be strong, but you also have to look at the other side of it as they should be good leaders or be able to corral people together. It's kind of one of the things on why a lot of people see Yami as a really great captain, because he is really strong, but he also does inspire his people. He inspires his own brigade members, which is a big thing. Like inspires his other members, whereas Langris was just strong. Like they definitely relied on him, but he didn't really do much for making them want to be better in terms of themselves, which is something you really can't learn. You kind of just have to have it, which is kind of cool that does have that. And it's really, honestly, I feel like to me it's it's like competitive spirit, because I myself am a really competitive person, and I know like competitive people will make people that aren't even competitive want to do better or want to like rise to the occasion. It's just a thing that I've seen a lot. So I really do like this. It's funny because it's a Langris chapter, but we got a lot of Yuno's personality in here as well. So all in all, it was a really, it really is a solid chapter. But all this is happening while Langris is charging towards Xenon, and it gets really bad. Langris gets impaled like all over the place, like in his leg and his chest and all of that kind of stuff. I don't think he's gonna die, like flat out. I really don't think Langris is gonna die, especially after all that stuff they got pulled with Gacha. I really don't think Langris is gonna die. But Xenon is saying the only thing that really matters here is that I'm stronger than both of you. This is when Langris has this moment where he's like, it doesn't matter, we're the ultimate brigade, the Golden Dawn, which a lot of people are going to clown, saying like the Golden Dawn isn't the ultimate brigade. But I mean, as a Golden Dawn person, all I'm going to say is like, they still got #1 in the Star Festival, and regardless of how cool the Black Bulls are. So I'm going to just leave that there. And and at the very end of the chapter, Yuno has finished charging up his arrow. We get a new, I guess it really isn't a new weapon. I mean, it kind of is a new weapon. I mean, Yuno has used bows before, but this is like a new attack that we've seen in Spirit Dive, the Spirit of Euros. I'm guessing is what it's called, and he's gonna launch that on Xenon. Now, I will say I was noticing on Twitter that people were saying that like Xenon in this panel really doesn't look too afraid. Like he doesn't really look like he's worried about it all like that, which is very true. And honestly, I highly doubt that Xenon's going to be, or not Xeno, that Xenon is going to be defeated by this attack next chapter. Because we don't know anything about Xenon's devil at all. So if Xenon just died from this attack, that'd be kind of lame. Like it would just be so flat. And it's one of those things where like even after this, I'm not really for sure where they could go, because this is all supposed to be happening around the same time as all of the Magicula stuff. So it's not really, all of those people can't help. So kind of what I want to happen next is maybe they launch this attack, it doesn't work, and then we get like some elves inbound to help out. Or I guess maybe Yuno has like another surpasses limits moment and gets a little bit stronger. Like I guess somewhere in between those two things is kind of what I want / think is going to happen next chapter. But I definitely don't think that next chapter he just shoots this arrow and Xenon dies. If that happens, that's going to be so flat. Or maybe if that does happen, then Xenon's devil will come out and do something. But those are kind of like the only ways I could really see it going. But aside from that, this chapter, if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it like 7.5, maybe an 8. Like I'd probably give it an 8 just because like I'm a big fan of the Golden Dawn and stuff, but realistically it's probably closer to a 7. It was a really hype chapter, but it was really straightforward. It wasn't like anything really crazy happened, because I don't know. It wasn't like really shocking. So I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a 8 just because I personally am a big fan of the Golden Dawn, and I really did like how this chapter really showcased, Langris. Like we got to see more of Langris's personality and how him and kind of relate to each other. Because lots of people who are fans of Black Clover know that has a personality, but a lot of people who maybe don't pay attention to the story or aren't good or are not as good at reading into characters may not have noticed some of the things that Langris was pointing out. And honestly, it was just all good stuff in general. So let me know how you guys felt about the chapter down below, as well as you guys, what you guys think is going to happen with Xenon come next chapter. Like, do you guys think he's going to be beaten, or maybe his devil's finally going to make an appearance? We get to see more of him. I'm just really kind of curious to know where you guys think this is all going to go, as well as your ratings and all that stuff. So make sure you guys like the video, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content. Like I said, 35 likes and I will talk about the popularity. No, it wasn't 35, it was 40. It was 40 likes to 24 hours if you want me to talk about the popularity poll. If not, I have a very different video planned for you guys tomorrow, which will be Monday, so be on the lookout for that. Aside from that, you guys all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of it, and I'll see you all in my next video.